What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caitlin Kenna. So today we're going to kick it off. First, actually, we're going to get into a Q&A today. I posted a Q&A post in my private Facebook group, in my Team Killa Kenna private Facebook group. So if you want to be in that, I put the link down there below. We share education, accountability, support, all the good shit. But I put a Q&A post up for my people to ask any questions that they have regarding fitness, nutrition, mindset. Really, nothing was off limits. So we got a couple questions that I'm going to address later on in the podcast. But first, of course, guys, we're going to start off with the article or study or tip of the day, and that is resistance training can help you live longer. And I think we're going to start to make a shift towards where doctors stop recommending aerobic or cardiovascular exercise as a means to increase longevity and health, and more of a move towards resistance training because of the countless amount of studies that are out that actually back up the fact that being stronger can help you live longer. So one study specifically tested grip strength, and weaker grip strength was associated with premature death. So basically they gave a baseline of strength. Men, it was 57 pounds, and women, it was 35 pounds. And each 11-pound increment below that threshold was tied to a 20% increase in women and a 16% increase in men to all-cause mortality. Guys, strength is such a major factor in living longer. I mean, just think about it. Like, there's a saying where fall and break a hip and die of pneumonia. Because, I mean, I watched it happen to my grandfather. He fell, broke his hip, and then he started to decline so much with his Alzheimer's that he literally got to the end of his life. And it all started with the breaking of a hip. So if we could be stronger and more resilient, we're going to be able to fight illness and disease and be able to decrease the likelihood of those things actually happening. So obviously, you can't discount the extremes, or you should discount the extremes. For example, somebody whose only focus is strength in their entire life and they obsess over going to the gym and working out, that's the extreme because it's about balance. You should prioritize strength as something important, but don't become radical about it and make it the end-all, be-all, because Olympic athletes and people who are in complete pursuit of one performance goal or one strength goal, they're going to decrease their longevity just because of all of the stress that they're putting on their body. So if your goal is to live longer, then prioritizing strength is going to be something that you would like to do because it's literally the foundational physical pursuit. Like, think about your mobility, your balance, your flexibility. It all relies on strength, and resistance training is the way for you to improve that. So other than helping you decrease your risk of premature mortality, resistance training can also improve heart health because it has been shown to lower blood pressure, improve cholesterol, and actually reduce the risk of heart disease. It even increases your bone density. So as we get older, our bones naturally lose density, which leads to osteoporosis, and resistance training can actually help to increase that bone density and reduce the risk of fractures. So you can reduce the risk of you falling because you'll be more balanced and stable, but then you can also reduce the risk of when you do fall, breaking something that will lead to the decline of your health. And then it also helps to boost your metabolism. And this is something that I talk about all of the time with resistance training because I work with clients who primarily want to look better and they want to lose body fat. So one of the biggest things they need to implement into their life is quality resistance training because it helps to increase muscle mass, which in turn is going to boost your metabolism and help you to maintain a healthy weight and drop body fat. And then, of course, going back to the longevity, it's going to reduce the risk of chronic disease. You know, resistance training has been linked to a reduced risk of type 2 diabetes because it helps improve insulin sensitivity, certain types of cancer because it does decrease overall chronic inflammation. So it's going to help to decrease all chronic disease. So guys, if you're somebody who wants to live longer and live a higher quality life, make sure that you're not just going on a treadmill and running all of the time, because while cardio and aerobic exercise is extremely beneficial for certain things like heart health, mental health, things like that, it shouldn't be the main priority. I like to think of cardio and aerobic training as the icing on the cake, and resistance training, protein intake, water, and sleep being that cake. Now, before we get into the Q&A portion of this, where I'm going to address those good, juicy questions, I wanted to tell you guys about something stupid that I decided that I was going to do for the entire month of February. So it's no secret that cold plunging and cold therapy is trending on social media. For some reason, when with the new year, I just started seeing cold plunging everywhere. And I mean, there's an amazing benefit to cold plunging. There's a lot of research behind, or not a lot of research, but there's some indication that it could potentially help with reducing anxiety, reducing depression. There needs to be more research done, is what I meant to say. But that's actually the reason why I want to do it, because I want to see how it impacts, one, my recovery, since I do train really hard, and I want to make sure that I'm always recovering. I want to make sure I'm doing, even these little nuances. So I'm going to see how it impacts my recovery over the next 30 days. I'm also going to see how it impacts my sleep over the next 30 days, which is why I'm primarily doing these cold plunges at night. Oh, I didn't tell you what I'm doing. So I'm going to be doing a cold plunge every single day for the next 30 days. So I think today is day 7, so I'm officially a week in. And I can tell you, it does not get fucking easier. I actually have to do my cold plunge after this. The weather's not that bad. Thankfully, I live in Florida, so it doesn't get too cold. But that water definitely gets fucking cold. And it just doesn't get any easier. Like a cold shower, I've done 5-minute cold showers for 30 days, and I feel like they don't get easier, but I feel like they're just easier in general. I feel like you can't compare a cold shower and a cold plunge. They're two completely different things. So, backtrack. The reason why I'm doing it, 1, is to see if I can recover better. 2, is to help to improve my sleep, because there's a lot of people who say that if you decrease your body core temperature later in the evening, it's going to help with melatonin production, which could potentially help you sleep better. I struggle with insomnia, so anything that I can do to improve my sleep is a win. So far after 7 days, I really haven't noticed too many big improvements in recovery or in sleep. However, I will say I'm using my Whoop watch as my indicator to kind of measure that. And before days 1 through 5, my recovery was in the yellow, a couple days in the red. My recovery's been really bad lately, like in the red and the yellow. I haven't actually had a green day in a really long time, which for those of you who don't use a Whoop, it's basically like you want to be in the green as much as possible, because that indicates that you're properly recovering from the stress that you're putting on your body, which is super important for your results. Now, today and yesterday, I was in the green. So let's see if that trend continues, because I'm feeling pretty damn good and my training is feeling really good, but that's nothing new. The final reason why I'm doing these cold plunges, and the biggest reason, is I want to see how it impacts my mental clarity, my mood, my anxiety, because those are 3 things that, of course, as somebody who wants to be a high achiever and wants to be successful in life, those are things that I really want to always improve on, especially since I come from a background where I deal with like PTSD. I have severe OCD. I suffered from an eating disorder, and I still struggle with anxiety a lot. So I'm hoping that this will help improve it. And if it doesn't, it's just like some cool experiment that I'm kind of doing with myself to gather my own data and see how it does impact me, since every single person is going to be different. So I wanted to share that with you guys so that you could follow the journey on my Instagram. I post every single night when I do that cold plunge. We don't have a cold plunge bath or like an ice barrel or anything fancy. We just have a trough that we bought from Tractor Supply, and we fill it with really cold water. And if we need to, we put ice in it. So right now it doesn't need ice. It's just cold enough. And I do that every night, and I do it for 3 minutes right now. We'll see if I increase that. Right now, 3 minutes is fine by me. And I'll let you guys know as I go forth with this pursuit. I'll give you a little bit of an update every single week when I come on the podcast. And, we'll see how it goes. But now let's go into those questions, because there are some good ones that I think are going to help a lot of people out, especially when it comes to overtraining, reverse dieting, mindset, and just understanding intensity behind workouts. All right, so this is my first time doing a Q&A on the podcast, so we're going to do it really simple. We're going to address the question, and then I'm going to give my opinion or what I would do in that situation, and the advice that I would give this individual if I were that person's coach. Now, number one is when reverse dieting, increasing your metabolism or increasing your calories is what reverse dieting is. Reverse dieting is increasing your calories with the goal to improve your metabolism so that you can burn more calories at rest and be able to eat more while not gaining weight. So when reverse dieting, how can you judge the threshold of when there are too many calories to prevent excess unwanted fat gain? Also, with a damaged metabolism coming out of a long-term calorie deficit, how many calories per week is ideal regarding increasing? So the overwhelming theme that you're going to see with all of these questions is it's going to depend on the individual, right? Because every single person is going to be different. It's going to depend, well, how long was that calorie deficit? How deep was that calorie deficit? And how much activity were you doing with that calorie deficit? And how low were your calories? That's going to be a big indicator in how many calories you should add and how long you should be in a reverse diet. But the overwhelming theme also that I want to address is that I hate how people throw around the word damaged metabolism. Your metabolism isn't damaged. What happens when you go into a calorie deficit is that your metabolism starts to adapt. It's called metabolic adaptation. This is completely normal. It happens no matter what, and it's your body. It starts to conserve energy as you go into a calorie deficit, and it's an evolutionary response to actually protect your body from perceived starvation. Your body perceives you being hungry and you being in a calorie deficit as a threat to survival based on evolution. So it's going to do things to help bring your body back into homeostasis and back into a comfortable place. And it does that through decreasing your drive to move. So most people move less when they're in a calorie deficit, just naturally, like they fidget less. So they're burning less calories throughout the day. As you get smaller through weight loss, you're going to burn less calories because you just have less, right? And then you're going to be eating less food. So you're going to have a lower thermic effect of food or the calories that you burn breaking food down. But really the biggest thing is that regarding metabolic adaptation, it's normal. It's going to happen no matter what. And that doesn't mean your metabolism is damaged. People think their metabolism is damaged when in all reality, they just need to get their body out of the excessive stress that they've been putting on it for so long. Because usually people who are in this position are not in a healthy place to even attempt fat loss, which is why they're asking the question and why they feel stalled in their efforts. So years of chronic dieting can cause severe metabolic adaptation where you're literally trying to eat 1,300 calories and the scale isn't moving. So what are you going to do? Eat 1,100 calories? But then what happens when the scale stops moving from there? You can't eat 900 calories and expect to actually be able to do anything and build any sort of muscle that's going to help with your metabolism. So the majority of the clients that I start out with, they're not in a place to lose body fat right now. So what I do is I put them into what we refer to as a post-season. So think of an athlete. An athlete is not always going to be in season. If someone's in the NFL, they're not always in season. They have to go through an in-season, a post-season, an off-season, and a pre-season. And when you refer to in-season, you refer to like the active pursuit of goal. So if somebody's actively pursuing fat loss, then they're in season. However, like I said, most people need to go through a proper postseason to bring their body back to homeostasis and improve their metabolism and improve their hormones so that they can actually lose body fat effectively. Let's think about this. If your body's constantly under stress, you're in a severe calorie deficit, you're doing a shit ton of training, you're doing a shit ton of workouts, you're dealing with emotional stress at work and at home, your body's not going to drop body fat. You're under too much stress. Body fat is comfortable. Body fat is a source of protection. So if you're extremely stressed and you're chronically stressed and you're redlining your life and expecting to lose body fat, you need to reevaluate where you're at. So if someone was going into a reverse diet, what I would do is I would add in calories very slowly. The reason I would do this is to prevent, or not to prevent, but to minimize fat gain. So I do this, again, depending on the individual, depending how low their calories are, depending how long they've been in that deep calorie deficit. I would increase their calories anywhere between 50 to 150 calories every 2 to 3 weeks, kind of depending on how their body starts responding. Some people are going to gain weight. Some people are going to maintain weight. Some people are going to actually lose weight because they were so stressed that the body's so excited to be able to actually drop water, inflammation, and fat. But the more slowly you do this, the less you will have to worry about body fat gain. But I want to preference something. You cannot go into a reverse diet with the expectation that the scale won't go up. It very well might, and it probably will. And you have to be okay with that. If you don't do this reverse diet, you're going to remain stuck and you're never going to be able to get the body that you want. Plus, you will continue to feel like shit. And I would do this with somebody and keep them in a reverse diet until their biofeedback starts to improve. And biofeedback, I like to use the acronym SHREDS, so SREDS. And I measure things like sleep, hunger, recovery, energy, digestion, and stress. So if somebody's digestion is a mess and they're lethargic and they have no energy throughout the day, they're always sore, they're hungry, or their hunger hormones are all over the place, they're chronically stressed and they're not sleeping well, that tells me that they need to reduce the amount of stress, feed their body more, probably reduce the intensity of training in order to actually see the results that they want. So once somebody's biofeedback markers start to improve, then that's when, okay, maybe we're almost ready to go into a fat loss phase. And that's going to look different for everyone. It could take 3 months, it could take 6 months, it could take over a year, but you have to trust the process here. You're going to gain muscle if you're doing this the right way, if you're eating adequate amounts of protein and you're also resistance training, you're going to gain muscle and that's going to improve your metabolism. So now the same person who couldn't lose weight on 1,300 calories is now maintaining their weight on 2,200 calories and only has to drop down a couple hundred calories to actually start losing body fat, where in the past they couldn't drop anything on 1,300 calories and hated their life. So it makes the process so much more sustainable. And that's why when I'm coaching my clients, I'll never have them in an aggressive calorie deficit, meaning more than 500, more than 1,000. And I will never have them in one longer than 6 weeks without bringing them back to maintenance for at least a little bit. So one thing I really love to do is have a client in a deficit, then bring them out for about a week, every 4 to 6 weeks, and just kind of like dip them in and out of it so that we can reduce the amount of metabolic adaptation. You can't stop it, but we can reduce it. So again, trust the process. And if you're not really sure if this pertains to you, well, ask yourself this. How's your sleep? How's your hunger? How's your recovery? How's your energy, digestion, stress? Like, are those things not great? Are you training a lot? Are you eating a little? It might be time for you to look into something like this. So if you're a female under 1,600 calories and you're not dropping body fat, or if you're a male who's under 1,800 calories and you're not dropping body fat, it's probably time for you to look into doing a reverse diet so that you can put your body into a place where it's hormonally healthy enough to actually drop body fat. All right. Question number 2. When resistance training, how hard is hard enough? How hard is it beneficial to push yourself? Where's the threshold regarding overtraining? Okay, so what is the threshold when one should stop and not jeopardize recovery and negatively impact your next workout? So this is kind of regarding like when I'm resistance training, like, am I pushing myself too hard or am I not pushing myself enough? So again, it's going to depend on the individual because hard is relative. What's hard for me may not be difficult for you. What's difficult for you may not be difficult for me. So here's really what you want to look at. How are you recovering? So if you're not recovering from your training, you need to make a change. It's normal to be a little bit sore, maybe, if you change things up or if you use a different muscle group or if you change the volume or whatever. But if you're always sore, and sore to the touch, and you're debilitatingly sore more often than not, then you need to slow things down. When we look at how to earn results, you think of stress and you think of adaptation. So you apply stress to the body through the workout, through lifting weights, and the adaptation that your body creates through recovery is to get stronger, build muscle, improve metabolism, burn more calories. Now, recovery is where you see the adaptation. And if you're just stressing and you're stressing too much to the point where there is no adaptation, then you're never going to see results. You're just going to keep applying stress, and that's not going to get you anywhere. So the way I like to look at it, if you're sore all the time, then you need to either reduce the intensity of your workouts or reduce the amount of sets or reps or just reduce the amount of days that you're working out. You want to think form and quality is always going to be important over quantity. It's not how much weight you move, it's how efficiently you actually move that weight. So again, biofeedback is important here. If you're not recovering, if your sleep is shit, and you're just going to try to gain muscle and try to improve your longevity and health, you have to look at these things and be mindful that you should not feel like shit from your training. You should actually feel better. Of course, there are going to be some workouts that you do where they're more difficult than others, or you're not used to doing it and you might feel a little bit more lethargic and tired. But if you're consistently ridiculously sore to the point where you can't sit on the toilet, that's a problem, and you need to look at reducing the amount of volume or reducing the intensity of your workouts. Okay, question number 3. When is it beneficial to skip the next workout because you are too sore? Do the negatives outweigh the positives if you train again before being recovered? And what level of soreness is okay to continue with your next resistance training workout? And that's kind of going off the last question, and I'm going to have a very similar answer. You have to be honest with yourself. Doing it once or twice is not going to make a huge difference, but if you are constantly too sore that you are considering not training, then that's a problem. Make sure you are making recovery a priority. We're all really, really good at training really fucking hard and smacking our face into the ground. But when someone tells me that they're extremely sore, I don't look at that as a victory. I look at that as you're not recovering properly. You're not being disciplined with your recovery. You have to focus on mobility and stretching, proper post-workout nutrition, making sure that you're getting a fast digesting carb and a fast digesting protein immediately after your training session to make sure that you're flipping that switch and getting your body out of a state where it's breaking down muscle and into a state where it's actually building muscle. And I'll put what I use down below in the podcast notes because I've been using the post-workout stack by First Form for over 3 years, and it's made a tremendous difference in how I feel after my workouts. But on top of post-workout nutrition, quality nutrition is so important when it comes to recovery. People are so quick to try to find this low carb, keto bread or something that fits your macros. Let's fit some fucking Oreos and Pop-Tarts in our macros. That's not quality nutrition. Eat more whole foods. Don't play around with this if it fits your macro shit. Yeah, that could work for a short period of time, but in all reality, eat more real food. It just makes you feel good and it makes you recover better. But also, guys, don't forget simple things like sleep and hydration. They play a huge role in your recovery, and they're going to help you feel less sore and actually get more from your training, right? A huge mistake that I see people make is going into their workouts and starting off with the mentality that they value soreness and sweat and perceived effort above all else. Because to me, that shows that they're going in and form really is just an afterthought, so they're probably going to injure themselves at some point, If only those people actually understood that practicing exercise would get them far better and long-lasting results instead of just trying to chase the sweat or chase the soreness, because sweat and soreness don't indicate a good workout. Remember, chase that adaptation. Focus on quality reps. Focus on really going into your workouts with intent. And if you're unbearably sore, Listen to your body. Get movement in to get your blood flowing, like go on a walk or ride the bike or just lower the weights a little bit. But don't risk injury. All right, and final question. This is the fourth question, final question. And this one kind of takes a completely different turn. This one we're focusing on mindset. So how do we quiet down the bitch voice that says we aren't worthy, our goals are too high, or that's got us thinking everyone is judging us? Number one, tunnel vision. Fucking focus on putting one foot in front of the other. Put your head down, focus on the process instead of being obsessed with the goal and instead of being obsessed with what people might think of you. Like, you have one life, and it's your choice of whether you're going to actually live that life or if you're going to live that life in fear that other people are going to judge you. Like, are you going to live your life or are you going to live a life for somebody else? Because that's up to you. And no matter how bad life gets, no matter good life gets, you always have a choice in this. And you, like I said, you can make the decision to say, I'm too afraid, or you can just go all in on yourself and see what happens. Because if you go all in on yourself and you actually go all in on yourself, you're going to accomplish your goals. You will. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of fucking hard work and dedication. And you're going to have to do stuff on the days where you really don't feel like doing anything. But like I said, put your head down and focus on the process. Too many people are obsessed with one goal that they ignore the process. It's not one big extraordinary thing that's going to get you what you want in life. It's small things done for an extraordinary period of time. So instead of being obsessed with that goal, be obsessed with having extreme discipline to the process and earn the right to tell yourself that you're worthy. Earn the right to tell yourself that you believe in yourself. Because when you first start off towards your goals, you're not going to believe in yourself. People around you aren't going to believe in you because you haven't earned the right to have that belief. But throughout the journey, every time you put the work in, you earn a little bit more discipline, you earn a little bit more belief, and you get a little bit better. But it's small things that are going to compound over time to create that massive change. And that's why I literally live by that mantra. Because if you focus on the small things and do the small things that most people are unwilling to do because they're monotonous or they're boring or they just don't do the work, they're not going to get anywhere in life. Weakness, laziness, comfort, those are three characteristics that are way too predominant in today's society. So fight those things, go out and do the work, earn the belief, put your head down, and focus on the process. That's it. Not every day is going to be easy. Some days you're going to feel like shit. Some days you're going to wonder, why am I even doing this? But just keep going. I see way too many people quit on things that they're still passionate about because they don't stick with it long enough, or because they start thinking about what other people are going to think of them, or they start becoming afraid. Go all in yourself. Do it for a long time and see how much shit you can get done. But guys, that's all that I have for you today. Please let me know what feedback you have for me on the podcast, what you want to see next. If you guys found value from this podcast, please share it with at least one person. Share it on your social media feeds. I appreciate you guys as always. And I'm going to go do that cold plunge that I've been dreading all damn day. So go out today and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.